Why can't governments just print more money? The truth that changed economics. Have you ever wondered why governments don't simply print enough money to make everyone rich? It sounds like the easiest solution in the world. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find $1 million deposited into every person's bank account. No more poverty, no more financial stress. Everyone can buy a nice house, a luxury car, and live comfortably. If governments have the power to create money, why don't they just do it? The answer is one of the most important lessons in economics, and once you understand it, you'll never look at money the same way again. The first thing to understand is that money itself is not wealth. Real wealth is made up of the goods and services that people produce every day: food, clean water, electricity, homes, hospitals, schools, transportation, computers, smartphones, and everything else that improves our lives. That is real wealth. Money is simply a tool that allows people to exchange those things efficiently. Printing more money does not magically create more food, more houses, or more factories. It only creates more pieces of paper or larger numbers in bank accounts. Imagine a small island with 100 people. Together they bake 100 loaves of bread every day. There are also $100 circulating throughout the island, so each loaf costs $1. Everything is balanced because the amount of money matches the amount of goods available. Now imagine the government suddenly prints another $100 and gives one extra dollar to everyone. At first, everyone feels richer because they now have more money in their pockets. But there is one problem. The island still produces only 100 loaves of bread. There isn't any extra food. There aren't more farmers. There aren't more ovens. There isn't more wheat. There is simply more money chasing the exact same amount of bread. What happens next is completely predictable. More people compete to buy the same limited supply of bread. The baker quickly notices that customers are willing to pay more rather than go home empty-handed. Instead of charging $1, the baker raises the price to $2. Suddenly, nobody is actually richer than before. Everyone has twice as much money, but bread also costs twice as much. The only thing that increased was the number printed on the banknotes. This isn't just a simple story. History has shown exactly what happens when governments create too much money without increasing production. One of the most famous examples occurred in Germany after the First World War. Between 1921 and 1923, the German government printed enormous amounts of money to pay its debts and cover government spending. Prices began rising so quickly that workers were paid several times a day because their wages lost value within hours. People rushed from their workplaces to spend their salaries immediately before prices increased again. Families carried wheelbarrows full of banknotes just to buy bread. In some cases, the wheelbarrow itself became more valuable than the money inside it. Savings that people had accumulated over decades became almost worthless in a matter of months. Another dramatic example happened in Zimbabwe during the 2000s. As the government continued printing more money while the country's production collapsed, inflation spiraled completely out of control. Prices doubled again and again within incredibly short periods of time. Eventually, the government printed banknotes worth 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. Even those enormous bills often weren't enough to buy basic groceries. At one point, people needed bags full of cash simply to purchase everyday necessities. The currency eventually became so unstable that Zimbabwe abandoned its own dollar and began using foreign currencies instead. A more recent example came from Venezuela. Years of excessive money creation, combined with falling oil production and severe economic problems, caused inflation to reach extraordinary levels. Store shelves became empty because businesses couldn't replace inventory fast enough. Ordinary citizens watched their salaries become almost meaningless as prices increased week after week. Many people crossed borders simply to buy food or medicine because their own currency had lost so much purchasing power. These examples all teach the same lesson. A country cannot become richer simply by creating more money. If that were possible, every nation on Earth would have eliminated poverty decades ago. Instead, real prosperity comes from increasing productivity. When farmers grow more food, factories manufacture more products, engineers invent better technology, doctors improve healthcare, businesses become more efficient, and workers create more value, the entire economy becomes wealthier. Money should represent that growing wealth, not replace it. Think of it another way. Imagine a concert with 1,000 seats and 1,000 tickets. Every ticket guarantees one seat. Now imagine the organizer suddenly prints another 1,000 tickets without adding more seats. Do people suddenly have twice as many places to sit? Of course not. There are still only 1,000 seats. The only difference is that twice as many people are competing for them. The tickets become less valuable because there are too many of them compared with what is actually available. Money works in much the same way. If the supply of money grows much faster than the supply of goods and services, each unit of money becomes less valuable. That doesn't mean governments and central banks should never create new money. In fact, they sometimes do exactly that during financial crises. For example, during the global financial crisis of 2008, and again during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, many central banks expanded the money supply to stabilize financial markets, support lending, and prevent deep recessions. However, these policies are carefully managed because creating too much money for too long can eventually contribute to higher inflation if production cannot keep pace with demand. This is why managing a country's money supply is one of the most difficult responsibilities in economics. Central banks constantly try to balance economic growth, low unemployment, stable prices, and financial confidence. Print too little money, and economic activity can slow dramatically. Print too much, and inflation can quickly erode the purchasing power of millions of people. The next time someone asks, why doesn't the government just print enough money to make everyone rich? You'll know the answer. Because money itself is not wealth. Wealth comes from what people create, produce, invent, and build. Money is simply a tool that represents that value. Creating more of the tool doesn't automatically create more value. In the next video, we'll explore one of the biggest mysteries in finance. How is money actually created? You won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to Money Decoded for more simple insights on money, investing, and the economy. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Thanks for watching.